Hi everyone, it's been a while since I did a live and I feel very inspired to do one today because it's on stepping into the quantum, as you might have seen in the title. And I presented on this subject on Saturday. I recorded it, although when I went to go and see the recording, the sound didn't work, so I didn't record it. And I was in a flow state and I wanted to see if I could kind of recreate this flow state. So I did that presentation to an amazing community of men I've been a member of for about 8 years now, and it was pretty well received. And I would just love to share some of the insights from this event. I have shared quite a few posts now online. You might have seen them on my feed. So reflections from Dr. Joe Dispenza's event in Cancun, which was just phenomenal. No words, by the way, can describe the magic of the event. And it went from better to better to better to better to better to better. And if you're not familiar with the teachings of Joe Dispenza, some of this might seem a bit kind of out there, but all I can say is what he is teaching isn't brand new. He is just using data and science to prove to us what we can do with our bodies, with our minds, and when we step into the world of energy. And he's got so much data behind him now. He's been doing this for many, many years. And what he was presenting to us, what happens in the blood, what happens with our genes and DNA through meditation, through visualization, is extraordinary. So extraordinary, we wonder why we don't know this already. And why we aren't kind of grown up knowing about this that we have within us. In fact, that was one of my greatest takeaways, by the way, was understanding that, or not even a takeaway, a consideration I had most of the time was, this isn't new, this has been around since the beginning of time, why don't we all know this? And I run this Wim Hof breathing group, and one of the first things I said was, when I was asked for my reflections and best gems, I said one of the best things, or one of the greatest things I've become more aware of, is the power that we have within us to heal ourselves, to heal each other, and really the beauty of humanity. And I said I've fallen in love again. I feel like I've been reconnected with my heart and humanity as a whole, because what we experienced was like nothing that I could have ever imagined before. Other than plant medicines, maybe, the likes of ayahuasca or DMT-5-MeO, when you can have an experience, a mystical experience with DMT, dimethyltryptamine, which we secrete in the pineal gland, also known as the third eye, when we're born, when we die, supposedly. But we can have these enhanced experiences with these plant medicines, and there are others as well. I actually had a pineal gland activation, or we all did a pineal gland activation on I think day 5 or day 6. It was unreal. I mean, that's probably the best word to describe it. Unreal. But I knew that I was in that experience. So, where can I start? There's so many things. So, by the way, one of his best books is Becoming Supernatural, and it's my favorite anyway, that one. So we spent a lot of time to begin with in a heart coherent space. We know from a scientific standpoint that when we are connected to our hearts, we have an extraordinary secretion of chemicals in the body. We secrete a very different concoction of chemicals in the body compared with if we are in a frustrated or anxious state. And it's known scientifically what happens when we are connected with our hearts. So the HeartMath Institute has been studying the heart-brain coherence or heart and brain connection since the 90s. In fact, it was discovered in the early 90s. In 1991, I believe, that the heart has a little brain. It's called the little brain in the heart. It has about 40,000 sensory neurons, or sensory neurites, brain-like cells in the heart. They act independently from the head brain. Head brain is the programmed brain, or the learned brain, learned intelligence. The heart just knows. One of Joe Dispenza's sayings is, the heart knows, the brain thinks. The heart knows, the brain thinks. And we also have the gut brain. So, and other brains in the body as well. But let's just stick with the head and the heart. When we are in a coherent state between the heart brain and the head brain, We know that we secrete a very different concoction of chemicals compared with the chemicals of stress. A lot of us live by the hormones of stress day in, day out, day in, day out. Or moderately in this kind of fight or flight response where we are addicted, we become addicted to the hormones of stress and we compromise our immune systems. Heart and brain coherence is quite the opposite of that. And we secrete these chemicals of love, like oxytocin, vasopressin. And the chemicals of love are very, very different compared with the chemicals of fear. So we spent a lot of time getting into this coherent heart space through meditations. By the way, we did about 5 or 6 hours of meditations every day between all the talks where we're learning all this intellectually, we're embodying it with the meditations. And we started off with heart and brain coherence. And we were trained, it's almost getting more and more used to that space where we are raising the frequency of our body. Everything about us is energy. Everything, we have different emotions can be measured in terms of their frequencies. And emotions of love, gratitude, care, compassion, they're up here. Whereas emotions of fear like, depression, frustration, anxiety, they're very low vibration. So when we shift into a high vibratory state, we raise the frequency in the body. In fact, from a body electric standpoint, I'll share another book, one of my favorites. No need. It's called Healing is Voltage by Dr. Jerry Tennant. There might be a need. Everything ties in. A characteristic of all illness is low voltage to an organ. From a body electric standpoint, we're wired up like a house. From more of an energy standpoint, a characteristic of all illness is the lowering of frequency, and all illness happens as a result of the lowering of frequency. So whatever we can do to raise our frequency by getting connected to our heart and away from our brains, we start to secrete a concoction of chemicals conducive to healing. And as the weeks went on and we spent more and more time in this space, we got better and better and better at it. And the more that we do this, by the way, I've been doing this for years, heart and brain coherence, ever since discovering the Heart Math Institute, we start to get connected to the heart. And we know this is the intellect, but this is a more supreme form of intelligence. And the only way I can describe it, well, it is described as your intuition. It's that level of intelligence that is beyond much more so intelligent than this brain. It's not learned. It's directly connected to something far greater than ourselves. So in the quantum world, that might be called the field. It might be called divine. It might be called consciousness. It might be called divine consciousness. There's lots of words for it, but there's a field of intelligence we are all a part of and connected to. And the heart is our direct access to this form of intelligence. So the more that we practice getting into this heart space, the more that we can come from this heart space. And we can start to sense what is true and what is not when information is presented to us, the more that we do it. One reason I'm very, very careful about what I expose myself to on a daily basis. So, moving on. So, heart and brain coherence. We know that we secrete a beautiful concoction of chemicals conducive to healing when we're in this coherent space. And the more that we get into the heart space, the more that we can get into this space of nothingness and expand into the quantum realm where we become no one, nowhere, no thing, no body, and we are just immersed in nothingness. It is in this space where they have done these profound scientific experiments, and they have shown that our blood changes. The blood gets new information in it. We have an upgrade in our genes and our DNA when we are in this place of pure nothingness, of letting go, of being devoid of thought and resistance. And we can become one with this field of intelligence that created us and we are a part of. Magic happens in the body. And people have attended this event and reversed all kinds of illnesses. They've reversed cancers, multiple brain tumors disappearing in the space of a week, blind people seeing again, deaf people hearing again, handicapped people walking again, autoimmune diseases just disappearing in the space of a week. It's profound, and I actually met quite a few people who have had near-on spontaneous remissions. In fact, he gave a story within a few days of a woman who was blind further to a stroke, or mostly blind further to a stroke. And she attended one of these events in Brighton, and believe it or not, she reversed her blindness in a space of a couple of days. And he showed us these iris scans before and afterwards. And the scientists would say, or Dr. Joe would say to the scientists, who he also had on stage, "Can you tell us how this happened?" They say, "No, but it's happened." And he says, "Where's this new information in the blood? It's there. Where does it come from?" They have no answer. We know, though, that it comes from the field, this field of intelligence that we are a part of. So people are having these spontaneous remissions at his event, or doing these meditations remotely, and it's all by getting connected to this supreme intelligence that is beyond this brain. It is remarkable. We did these coherence healings, so not just for ourselves, but we can actually heal each other. This bit, by the way, he's only done this for a couple of years, and he actually said towards the beginning, if you'd have asked me about the effects of coherence healings, I would just have no idea about what is possible. So I've been studying energy healing for a couple of years now, maybe 5 years, and I've done various energy courses like Mind Valley, and really discovering the power that we have to heal with our hands. And I've been healing, not as a job, but friends who need healing, and I've done it with myself. Healing energy comes from my hands, or our hands. And he was talking from an energetic standpoint, how this happens, and showing us images of like the torus field that surrounds the body, the energy field, which can be picked up using, there's a word for these devices, but it can pick up the energy field of the body. And what happens when we are in these coherent healings, or coherence healings, we are separated into all these pods of 8 people and a healee in the middle who volunteered to be healed. And we would first raise our own frequency by getting connected to the heart, which is really not very difficult. You start thinking of high frequency emotions, you get connected to the heart, you slow down the breathing. Heart Math Institute also shows you how to do this. But he had a brilliant, meticulous way of getting us into this heart space before we then direct this energy onto people to heal them effectively. But we're not doing the healing. It's this electromagnetic energy that comes through us onto, or you might call it cosmic energy, comes through us and onto the person. And people have had near-on spontaneous remissions, healings, in one session alone. So we did those consecutively from, I think it was day 4 or 5 onwards, for 3 days, and talking to people throughout the whole event. There were about 1,500 people there. And one particular woman who was the healer in the first session I sat in on, she told me that she had been injured by radiation further to cancer, and she was unable to hold water. So she had to just be drinking water all day long because she couldn't hold on to water. And she said by day 2 of this session, she was able to, and she just noticed she was feeling more hydrated. And then she had other things going on with the sinuses, they cleared up as well. And then other people had these amazing stories and of just remissions. So I'm sharing this because what we're capable of is so much more than we have ever been allowed to believe. And that is the greatest takeaway that I had from this whole event. We are more powerful than we've ever been allowed to believe. We can heal ourselves with energy, we can heal ourselves with our mind, with our emotions, and we can even influence our world around us by shifting our own energy, our frequency. The higher our frequency, the more that we start to attract that which we do desire in our lives. The more that we upward spiral, we can actually start to attract wonderful events and people and like-minded people into our lives. And of course, the opposite of that is true. If we're like in a low frequency and complaining all the time and not happy, and I won't go too much into it, but if we're low frequency, we start to attract low frequency stuff. And Joe Dispenza talks about this, the self-reflective universe. Whatever we are inside is a reflection out of us. And the more that we can do to shift our frequency, to raise our frequency, not only are we going to heal ourselves, but we start to change our world around us, and we start to bring in all these people into our lives in events and circumstances at the same frequency. So it's amazing what happens. And it's like magic. So there's a whole transformation happening where people are engaging with the quantum, call it meditation, be it Joe Dispenza event, or there's obviously so many different teachers out there, but ultimately it's through meditation, this free tool that we all have when we can just let go, surrender, and just be at one with ourselves, with our thoughts. And the more that we do it, the more that we can immerse ourselves into this field and learn how to create from the field rather than just with action. That's one of the biggest things. When we can create with energy as well as with action, we can start to accelerate our results. And, you know, externally with our work and healing ourselves as well. It's a remarkable way to live. And I've been doing his meditations on and off for many years, since about 2017. And I've really become more inclined. I mean, I'm sold. It's like, why would I not have a date with the divine every day if I knew what's happening with my blood, if I knew what's happening biologically? I'm getting a DNA and gene upgrade every single time I do it. He's got all of this data. It's phenomenal. Anti-cancer metabolites. It is extraordinary. And the more that we can immerse ourselves with the quantum, we're going to be more stable. We can heal ourselves. We can have a foundation to start our day, you know, a solid foundation for whatever life throws for us, not to us, for us. And it's just much more fun. So there's a couple of things I really wanted to mention. People having spontaneous remissions, heart and brain coherence, we can all do that very, very easily to raise the frequency of our body and to heal ourselves. By the way, I combine that with breath work every single morning. I wanted to talk about the coherence healings, and I wanted to talk about the DMT, pineal gland activation. That was just extraordinary. How long have I been talking for? I didn't want to go long for 15 minutes. Pineal gland activation. This cone here at the top of this symbol is the pineal gland inside the brain. It is our doorway to the mystical. It is a doorway to another world. 4 hours of breath work and energy work, we got to awaken the pineal gland by bringing energy up from the perineum, those muscles that we use during sex and to eliminate. We bring the energy through bringing that. There's a very, very specific form of breath work that we use to bring energy up from the root all the way up to the brain. And it creates this piezoelectric effect where there is a pressure against the crystals surrounding the pineal gland, and you can literally create an energy, like a burst of energy into the pineal gland and have a mystical experience, much like you do with DMT or any other kind of plant medicines. So, by the way, I'm not advocating plant medicines, they're risky, etc. We can do this with breath, we can do this with energy, but it's very, very meticulously done at his events. If you ever feel like going to one of his events, I highly recommend it. If you feel called, go. They're amazing, transformative. That's enough for now. I don't know how long I've been talking. I was hoping to do this in 15 minutes. Thank you for watching, and I hope that's instilled you with some inspiration to do this kind of stuff, or indulge and step into the quantum. Thank you for watching.